our franchise owners spend most of their time making sure their members are being well cared for, that the meetings are running the way they should, and launching new chapters. A lot of times we have some industries that are, because you can only have one in each chapter, that are waiting in line. A lot of times realtors and insurance agents love being in, so they'll say, can you help me launch a chapter? Because I want a chapter to belong to.
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
Hi, it's John Hayes, and my guest today, Mary Thompson. She's the CEO of BNI, the world's largest referral networking organization. She also happens to be chair of the International Franchise Association's Board of Directors. Mary, thank you for joining me. I'm so pleased that you could do this.
Thanks for having me here today, John.
No, sure. So I always like to start, well, first of all, you've had an amazing career. You're a United States Marine, and thank you, Mary, for that service to our country. We
it's
all
my honor
are
to serve.
in all. And once a Marine, always a Marine. Our friend Jim Amos is a Marine and ran his organization like a Marine and loved Jim. But you then found that your calling would be in franchising, as so many people do. And so let's start out with, how did you discover franchising? You're in the Marine Corps, you come out of the Marine Corps, and then, most people know nothing about franchising, or they think, well, I got to own a McDonald's. Okay, no, you don't. You can, but you don't. How'd you discover?
I knew nothing about franchising. When we were in the Marine Corps, my husband and I would drive around and we'd say, what do you think all these civilians do? We had no idea because we were both military brats. We'd grown up with our dads being in the Army. So we didn't know, truly. And it's really my husband's fault. I was a sales rep. I'd gotten out of the Marine Corps and I was a sales rep. And I was doing well as a sales rep, but I missed leading a team. I felt this need and want to control my own destiny. We'd gotten out so we could have a more stability as our kids were coming into school and not having to move so often. I loved every minute of the Marine Corps. And I just thought that our children, I wanted them in one place for a long time. Mm-hmm. And he came home, he was a stockbroker. He came home from a Chamber of Commerce meeting with a little brochure from a company called, back then, Cookie Bouquet. They go by Cookies by Design. Mm-hmm. And he put it on my dresser. He didn't even think anything of it. And that night I was having trouble sleeping and I got up and I was looking at it and I was like, man, these are cool. I'd love to do something like this, but I don't know how to do this. I've never owned my own business. And I kept looking, I was like, man, I could sell these all day long. I'm a sales rep now. I would love selling cookies. And on the back page, there were 3 magic words said for franchising information. And it was so long ago, it's not like you went online and requested.
Right.
I called the number and they mailed me a packet. And I laid the packet out on the table after it came in. And my husband came in from work one day and I said, this is what I want to do. I had this aha moment that I could have somebody show me how to do it. And I tell everybody what was so great, what's great about franchising is what Cookies by Design did for me. Taught me how to make cookies, taught me how to sell cookies, and it taught me how to make money selling cookies. And it was transformational for me.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I think the emphasis is on taught you how to make money with cookies, because while it's not a huge challenge to learn how to make cookies, it's selling cookies for a profit that franchisor companies and franchise systems teach you how to do. So often accountants might say to a client, no, you don't want to do franchising because you got to pay a royalty and you can make a better cookie than Cookie by Design or Mrs. Fields. Well, maybe you can, but they can sell it better and make money out of it.
Yes.
And
anybody who knows me well knows I did not know how to make cookies. In fact, the Marine Corps taught me a lot of things, but even that I did not know.
Not how to make cookies. Good.
And they more than earned their franchise fee and the ongoing licensing fee. It changed who I became.
Sure. Did you know about the Veterans Transition Franchise Initiative, VetFran, at the time that you bought Cookies by Design?
I did not. I wish I had, but I did not. And it's interesting because veterans, I'm so grateful to have been a veteran and to have served in the Marine Corps. A lot of times the transition assistance programs are veterans teaching veterans how to become civilians. Yep. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. That's why I spent so much time in VetFran, once I felt like I got to the other side, was helping other veterans get into small business ownership and understand how to get to the other side.
Yeah. So that ties in, the VetFran topic ties into a connection that we have from Waco, Texas, where
Yes.
you moved on from Cookies by Design. I'm assuming you sold your interest.
I did.
And then you went to this little company started by Don Dwyer in 1981. He had Rainbow International, decided, well, one company is pretty good, but it's like a bird in a cage, he said. The bird's lonely. So then he brought on another company, then another company, kept building those companies. Don was, my hero in franchising for sure. And he was the mind behind the VetFran program.
Sure was.
And many other things. But so then how did you get to, I believe you became president of Mr. Rooter as your...
Well, so I sold my franchises, and the franchisor at Cookies asked me if I would come on board. And I literally said, I can't go over to the dark side. I still laugh about that. And they mailed me a ticket and said, come meet with us. And I said, you can name your title. Just start teaching people what you were doing. So I pretty much did every job I built. I was a field, a franchise consultant. Then I built the franchise consulting team. And then I built the supplier program. And then the marketing team until I was president of that brand. When I was president of Cookies by Design,
Okay.
I kept running into this leader at IFA, at the International Franchise Association, Mike Bidwell.
Yeah.
And we sat on panels together. And every time I met someone from Dwyer Group, I was impressed.
Yeah.
They had a very clear set of values called Living Rich. My Marine Corps and my family days taught me that the best organizations in the world are very clear about their values.
Yeah.
And I just kept running into him. And one day he reached out to me and said, we have our largest brand, Mr. Rooter. We've been looking for a leader for a while. I think you're it. And I told him, I don't know anything about plumbing. I'm not even sure I can spell it. And he said, yeah, but you know business and you know franchising. And I think you're the one. And we talked for a few months, and I came over. I didn't realize that I was the first woman to run a major plumbing company in North America. I've never asked those kind of questions. I just follow my heart and where I think I should be going to serve. Mm-hmm. And I served as Mr. Rooter's president for 9 years. Mm-hmm. Loved every minute of it. Got my plumbing license while I was there. I'm a big believer that when you're a leader of an organization, you really need to understand all parts of it. You might not need to be mired down in the details, but understanding what your key customer or one of your internal customers is going through is important. So I earned my plumbing license while I was there as well.
Right. And then you moved on to, you're a chief operating officer of Dwyer
Neighborly.
as well as Neighborly, or not until Neighborly?
No, so actually I moved over. It was still Dwyer Group. So as Dwyer Group was growing, we were at 6 brands going to a 7th brand. And we, Neighborly and then Dwyer Group was owned by private equity. I'm actually working with my 6th private equity company. I very much enjoy working with private equity, good thought partners. And they were looking to promote Mike to be the CEO. And at the same time, they knew they needed to get a COO. So they pulled us up together. And at the time, we had just put on our 7th brand. And I was hesitant at first because I loved being a brand president and I love working closely with franchise owners, and I still very close to that group. But I thought what I could do for Rooter, if I could multiply that times 7, never in my wildest dreams did I think that by the time I left that role, we would have 30 brands. And about a year into that role, we were acquired by a company by Riverside, who helped us move to the Neighborly name. And I still remember doing all the work on it. And we had a really good marketing company. And they did the whole presentation, and they said, "You're Neighborly." And we smiled and we said, "Of course we are. We know we're Neighborly." They're like, "No, you're Neighborly." We're like, "We know we're Neighborly people." They're like, "No, you're Neighborly, and that's why it needs to be your name." And I look back now, and they were so right. And so Mike and I, working with our presidents and a really great marketing team, moved the company over to the Neighborly name, which was a great way to unite all the brands and have the consumer understand how we went together.
Yeah. And I hope no one at Neighborly ever forgets that all of that was part of Don Dwyer's dream.
Yes.
And he died prematurely at 60 years of age. We lost a warrior, a pioneer in franchising, a great thinker, and he did so much to help people who had nothing get into franchising and learn how to be a good business owner. Just the greatest of gentlemen.
I never got to meet him, but
Yeah.
I got to participate in the company that he started and made a big difference in a lot of lives. I have to think that he's smiling, as is Mike Bidwell, knowing that something great was built.
You're right. And those values that Dwyer lived by came from Don. And then Dina, after succeeding him, did a great deal to embrace the values.
Sure
and to get
did.
everyone to embrace those. I was on the board, and even the board of directors, we began every meeting with those values. And
So the day I left, we were doing that, and I'm sure Neighborly still is. It's interesting.
So.
I don't know if you know how that came about, John, but after Don died, the leaders came together, with Dina leading it, saying, we want to make sure we don't lose this, because we've lost our founder, and how do we operationalize our values? And that's where there's 15 values that, living rich, respect, integrity, customer focus, and my favorite one, having fun in the process.
Yeah, me too.
We said them at all our meetings. I could recite every one of them by heart right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. So one of the things about your career, Mary, is that you've always been grounded in service and helping others unlock their potential. Isn't that what franchising is all about? And people just don't understand that.
Well, it's the great American dream. It's the great Canadian dream. I just came from Vietnam. It's the great Vietnam dream. Yeah. It is. Franchising helps take somebody who wants to control their own destiny and give them a blueprint for how they can succeed and be operationally excellent. And it works. And I tell everybody, I'm highly biased. You should take everything I say, understanding that I'm highly biased, but I'm a product of it. And it was very good. And it's why I'm still in franchising. It's why I came over to serve as CEO of BNI, because Business Network International is Main Street. Franchising is the voice of Main Street, and BNI is Main Street. Mm-hmm. And it's about growing businesses and helping people serve their communities. I think franchisees are community champions.
Why is it that so few people know about franchising? I have students who come to Palm Beach Atlantic University. Nobody comes to study franchising.
No.
Fortunately, a bunch of them do, because I've graduated more than 100 of them with lots of knowledge about franchising. 10 are franchisees now. A bunch of them several dozen work in franchise companies. They'll say things to me like, this is life-changing, but I came here to study political science, communications, marketing, finance, and then they find out about franchising, and for some of them, this is clearly the path they want to follow, but they didn't know anything about it. Oftentimes their parents try to talk them out of it because they think franchising means, well, you're going to work at McDonald's or Burger King or Chick-fil-A.
It's interesting. I think that is the question of the day. IFA, we're working on a campaign to help the average American understand what franchising is.
Good.
Because they don't. And this is an old statistic, and I haven't seen a new one, but there was a time maybe about 10 years ago when we did a PricewaterhouseCoopers study, and 1 out of every 8 jobs in the United States was created through franchising. Like 40% of all retail sales were coming through franchising.
Yeah.
What I love about, and you've heard this a number of times, a lot of people don't understand franchising. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Yeah.
You think nationally, but you act locally. You have this collective intelligence of all this great information, but you locally, you support the local football team because your kid's in that school, and and you're hiring people, and the money stays in the community. I'm stunned that more people don't know about franchising, because I would contend, and if you're listening and you've never heard, and if you're listening, you probably know about franchising, because John, you are the godfather of franchising.
Oh, thank you.
All things franchising.
That makes me sound old.
No, never. But if franchising, I would say, sometimes when I talk to people, I'll say, I bet you can't go a day without using a product or service that is a franchise, whether it's a hotel or a moving company or food or B&I or getting your home fixed. I mean, I could go on and on.
Right. People just don't know that franchising touches their life so often. They don't understand that.
No.
And I don't know what the reticence is, but oftentimes they'll say, well, it's too expensive, or you got to pay a fee for the rest of your life. How do you respond to those points?
Well, when I think about, a franchise owner will pay an ongoing licensing fee for the right to use the systems. And I'll tell you, I'll speak from a franchisee point of view, from a franchise owner, because I was one for a number of years. What they taught me that helped me grow my business top line, grow my business bottom line, help me understand how to have the best team and how to deliver the best product to the customer was worth every penny that I sent them. Every single, and then even the network of fellow franchise owners that I met with regularly that could say, I could pick up the phone and say, how did you do this? Or are you having trouble with this? Or go to a convention and say, can you walk me through what you're doing here? The whole bit, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. It was worth every penny. And I heard someone, Sonda Kitchen, who's a franchise owner in Mr. Rooter, she said once, she goes, it's like paying a dues to be in a club. It's a club that helps you be better and do things in a better, smarter way that improves your life and the lives of those around you. Why would you not?
Yeah. And yet we still have failures in franchising, and that's what keeps a lot of people away. They'll say, oh, my neighbor did that and he's been paying for it ever since. He's been in bankruptcy. Yes. Horrible stories. And of course, we hear these horrible stories. Sometimes they're created by the franchisee, sometimes by a bad franchisor. So how do people protect themselves?
Well, first of all, I'll say this. Franchising is not for everybody. Just like entrepreneurship's not for everybody. The military's not for everybody. Working for a big giant company is not for everybody. So I often recommend, if someone's looking to be a franchisee, I recommend a number of things. One, that they read the franchise disclosure document very closely, that they talk to the franchisees that are in the system and some who have left the system so they understand what success and failure looks like. And also, that they align with the values that the franchisor not just talks about, but shows. We talked about the values for Neighborly. B&I is very values driven. We have 7 values. Our first one is about giver's gain, that we look to give first before we ever ask to receive, and things like lifelong learning and recognition and building relationships. And so I recommend, sometimes what's missing is there's not the right connection between the values that franchisor shows and exhibits and what you are. And then look at the item 19, which anyone who knows anything about franchising is the franchise financial performance representation. Talk to franchisees and ask them, how are you doing? Would you do it again? And then also, lastly, I'd say, make sure, if you want to be a franchisee, you have to be somebody who's disciplined. You can't be somebody who has to have someone call them and get them out of bed in the morning or follow up with them. You have to be self-driven. You have to have a high drive. And you also have, in addition to having a high drive, you have to be someone who's willing to follow a system. That's why I think veterans make such good franchisees, because veterans grow up in systems. They know discipline, and they also understand systems. Yep. And so for me, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I wanted to have a blueprint to fall in on. Not everyone's like that. Yeah. But for those people who are looking for that, it's a unique opportunity. And, there's been a lot of talk in the last number of years about, a lot of people use the word responsible franchising. I use the word good franchising because that's what it is. It's as a franchisor, am I looking out for the unit level economics of my franchise owners, their profitability? Am I collaborating with them? Am I holding them accountable to the standards so that they can be successful and the brand as a whole can be successful? Am I partnering with them in a way that we can grow the brand together? And that's plain old fashioned good franchising. You've seen it for years, and so have I.
Absolutely. Yeah. So is franchising for people who say, well, I want to keep my job, but I want passive income, or I want a part-time where I can do 5 hours a week? Do you encourage that?
I do not. Now, are there a small group of franchisors that maybe it's a part-time gig? I'd say very, very small. It's probably less than 3%.
Yep,
if I were hazarding a guess. It's for the people who want to control their own destiny, want to build a business. They're not looking just for a job. It's more than that. They're looking for a way to build a team, grow a business, serve a community. And in serving a community, it also serves them and their family as well.
So tell us about the world's largest referral networking organization, BNI. What's that all about?
Well, I first became a BNI member in 1994 as a franchisee of Cookies by Design. So BNI, we're the world's largest referral networking organization. In the last 12 months, we have referred member-to-member business, closed business, 25.8 billion, and that's with a B, dollars worth of business to one another. I always tell everybody we're like the best kept secret. When you ask about like, why don't people know about franchising? It's the same. Like, why don't more people know about BNI? We're in 76 countries. We have 344,000 members across the globe. And typically, for every dollar that a member puts in dues, they usually get about $73 in closed business. So the way it works is you join a chapter. There's usually about 40 people in your chapter. So there's no competition in the chapter. So there's one plumber, there's one realtor, there's one insurance agent, there's one real estate lawyer, there's one CPA, there's one massage therapist. I could go on and on. I'm talking about my chapter because remember I told you I got my plumbing license. Well, I also am a member in a chapter. I tell everybody, if I ran a hamburger company, I'd eat a hamburger every day. I'm so grateful I don't run a hamburger company. It would not be good for my waistline. But I'm citing some of the group in my own chapter. And what they do, and the core competency of what we do is the discipline of the every week meeting where we get together and we teach our members how to network properly that you get business. A lot of people, they think networking is showing up to a chamber mixer or showing up to any kind of mixer with your name tag on and sitting there going, hey, John, how are you? And not even remembering what you do. But if you have the discipline, it's like the discipline of, someone said once, motivation is temporary, but so is bathing. It's not something you do once. It's something you do on a regular basis with a discipline. And the root of the word discipline means to learn. And we learn about the members in our chapter and what their ideal referral is. And then we have a great app that we use that I can go in and say to my massage therapist, my person in the office, they have a neck ache. They've been looking for somebody. Her name is Sally Smith. Here's her information. And it sends right to that person.
So do BNI franchisees, do they do this full time, or are they in another business and they have BNI as an add-on to their business?
It's a mix, but most of them do it full time. It's got very good unit level economics. I think about I grew up in the plumbing world where everything's 24/7. Plumbing plumbing problems don't just happen between 8 and 5. But BNI meetings, they typically happen during the week in the mornings or at lunchtime. And so as they build their chapters, it's got some very nice unit level economics. So the majority of ours, they do full-time BNI. And I always tell everybody, BNI is like IBM. IBM doesn't say we're International Business Machines, we're IBM. They say we're IBM. And BNI, we don't say we're Business Network International. We just say we're BNI. No. Our franchise owners spend most of their time making sure their members are being well cared for, that the meetings are running the way they should, and launching new chapters. A lot of times we have some industries that are, because you can only have one in each chapter, that are waiting in line. A lot of times realtors and insurance agents love being in. So they'll say, can you help me launch a chapter? Because I want a chapter to belong to. So they spend their time doing that and working with our volunteer leaders to help them run the best chapter meetings possible that create the most referrals for the members. So that's what they usually do. There are some that will have additional businesses. Sometimes it's event planning or coaching because there's a nice tie-in. Yeah. That's in the minority. And usually it's after they've been doing BNI for a while.
How many BNI franchisees in the United States? I know you're in 76 countries, but what about in the USA?
In the United States, we're under 300. We've got some, and I think a lot of franchisors go through this. We've got some franchisees who have big, giant, huge territories that cover a big area. And franchisors, we do this. We sell big, giant, huge territories, and then we get smarter and we realize that we do better, and our franchise owners do better when we have a territory that they can go deeper in, because when they go deeper, they spend less money on marketing. They have less competition. They don't have to go all over the place. So we've been in the process of doing that, and I expect, I would not be surprised if 5 years from now, we have 400 in the U.S. just based on the territory we have available and how we're working with our franchise owners. We also have some company owned as well, and do some that way as well. But our majority is franchised.
And what's the investment if I wanted to become a BNI franchisee in the United States or anywhere? How does it work?
Well, it depends on the size of territory, but it's going to be anywhere from about 70,000 to 120, depending on how much area you're getting, and depending on the area, how much marketing you need to do. The beauty of it is, I think about in the home services, which I grew up in, and first I was in the gifting industry, and everything was retail. And if I wanted to double my business or increase my business, I had to get a whole other location and hire another staff. So I had to double my overhead, and I might not double my sales for a while. And then I got into the home services where all I had to do is add another truck. And I was like, man, this is brilliant. I don't have to add this whole other retail side. And then I got to BNI where the chapters meet, they pick places to meet. Sometimes it's a hotel of one of the members. Sometimes it's a local church. Sometimes it's a local hall or a meeting space that somebody has. And so I don't have to have big offices. I usually don't start with a lot, if any, employees, because when I have my first 5 chapters, which it's going to be a couple hundred members, I can do that myself to begin with. So there's not a lot in the beginning of outlay other than the marketing to, get going and to have the territory. And so, which I love, because then as you start scaling up, you have time. I don't have to have a CSR tomorrow. I don't have to have someone waiting on my counter to sell cookies tomorrow, because what I have to do is find members and launch chapters and show them how to conduct the meeting. That is our core competency. We're very clear. Our vision is to change the way the world does business, member by member by member. We're going to change the way the world does business, and we do it through our mission, which is growing our members' businesses through through disciplined meetings and training.
So a BNI franchisee is going to go out and find a plumber, a realtor, an insurance person, etc.,
yes,
and invite them into their group, for which that member must pay a fee. That's how the franchisee makes money.
Yes, and in subscription based, so it's a every year fee. And what happens is the marketing's if you read anything about companies that do well and grow well, it's when their customers bring other customers. It's the ones who are raving fans. And what happens is members bring more members in. They say the plumber says to his friend who's the restoration guy, you need to come visit my chapter because we're amazing. And I'll tell you, my chapter is amazing. We're the Providence Business Alliance, and I just love my chapter. They're made up of some of the most amazing human beings who this year alone has sent over $2 million of business to one another just in the first 7 months of the year.
Wow.
It's just crazy. And true business that we know about. And so what's great is our customers bring more customers in. And they know in the giver's gain that they can help somebody get more business. Everybody wins.
So in a city, let's take West Palm Beach. If I'm the BNI franchisee, I don't have just one group probably.
Oh, no. I probably have 40.
How many?
40 chapters.
Okay.
Yeah, at least.
So I'm pretty busy running. I mean, how do I work that in? Every day I must have a group meeting, or I don't meet with all the groups because I can't possibly do it.
So every chapter has volunteer leaders, has a president, a vice president, a secretary, a member coordinator, a mentor coordinator, a visitor coordinator. They sit in their roles from 6 months to a year, depending. The chapters make some of those decisions. So you have these volunteer leaders that they love doing it for a couple of reasons. One, they get better, stronger. Usually it also helps their business, and they have a passion for what BNI is doing. Once a once a franchisee has between 5 and 10 chapters, then they're going to hire someone to help them go out and make sure that those meetings are happening the way that they should. I've gone to probably more than 50 meetings across the globe and in multiple languages. Mm-hmm. And what I have found the most surprising is every meeting is the same. I have a set of AI headset that I can hear the languages. And one time I forgot my headset and I sat in the entire meeting. I knew exactly what was going on. I was like, oh, yes, this is when they're going around and sharing the referrals. Oh, yeah, this guy just referred to this guy. Oh, yeah, this is when we tell our story about what we're doing. So that discipline really helps you understand how you can best help those people in your chapter get more business.
Okay. And then a franchisee makes money off each referral. Does it work that way?
No, they make money off the dues from the members.
Okay.
Part of our giver's gain is the only person who makes money off the referral is the person who gets the referral.
Okay.
We really believe we want to encourage everybody to send the business to one another, because that's how we're going to change the way the world does business. You think about what's happening in the world on all the digital, and AI is important, and we're doing quite a bit with AI. But AI doesn't replace this. It doesn't replace sitting across from one another and getting, people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and nothing replaces that.
So I've heard you say giver's gain several times, and that's your slogan at BNI and your principle of
one of our core values.
Okay. So what's that about? Giver's gain. How does that work?
So, we have 7 values. We have lifelong learning, and we have traditions and innovations. But giver's gain is our very first one. We start by talking about that. And what we say and what we believe is, instead of coming into a chapter and saying, I want to think about what I'm going to get, what kind of referrals and business I'm going to get, don't start there. Come in and say, I'm going to look for every person in that chapter that I know somebody that would want to do business with that person. And we encourage what we call one-to-ones, which is where you sit down for 30 minutes, and we have a whole profile everyone does, and you talk about, this is my business, this is your business, what's your ideal customer? Yeah. Who are you most looking for? Let me see if I can help you with that. And it's so fascinating. Those who look for abundance find it. Those who look for scarcity find it. And when you stop worrying about what you're getting and you start thinking about what you can contribute to your group, it comes back to you. And so we believe that at our corporate level, in giving to our franchise owners and to our members. That's why we don't charge for a referral. We believe that at the franchisee level for giving to our members, and we believe that at the chapter level, member to member.
So you were in a BNI group when you were a franchisee.
I was.
In the cookies business. So how valuable is that? How valuable is networking to a small business owner or a franchisee? And how much of that do they need to do every week?
Well, I'll tell you my story, because it's the biggest part of my truth. So I just come out of the Marine Corps. I did not know business. I found a franchise, thank goodness, who could teach me. Yeah. But I also didn't know how to network. And networking is a science. There's a science behind it, and that's part of what we teach, and we teach it by the discipline of doing it regularly. And so my insurance agent invited me, and I liked her, so I went. And my second meeting, I met the VP of marketing for this young company that had just moved into their first building called Dell Computers. Michael Dell used to sell out of his dorm room. A lot of people don't know that. They had just moved in their first building, and she told me, we're going to have these product launches, and we'd like to give your your cookies as gifts. I'm like, that'd be great. Well, that was like $40,000 worth of business a year to me. Wow. That's not why I stayed, though. I got referrals regularly, but the reason I stayed was it was this group of business leaders, and they helped me become better. They were another group of people, I say this a lot. It's something I think about a lot. I want to be a diamond. Diamonds are brilliant and they're strong, and I want to be sparkly as well. And what it takes to make a diamond is another diamond. It takes a diamond to cut a diamond. So I want to make sure I have diamonds in my life. That's very important to me. And being part of BNI is I had this group of diamonds. That's why my pin is diamond shaped, to remind me that I want to be a diamond, and B&I were diamonds who cut one another in a very good way. And so that's what it did for me. And I have heard stories from members throughout the United States, across the globe. I had one member in Germany who pulled me aside and said, "You need to hear this." Said, "I joined 2 months before COVID. My business was about 6 months old. So the only reason I'm still standing is because I was part of BNI." I had another member who was in Valencia when the floods were in Valencia, and he said, half of my chapter came out and helped me move stuff out of my house so I didn't lose everything that was in my house in the floods. I had another tell me that his son was in a terrible accident, ended up paraplegic, and when he got ready to go home, he sent a message out to his chapter and said, "Can I get any of you to help me, refer me to someone who can help build, make my home accessible for my son?" They came and did it for free for him.
Wow.
Those are the stories that remind me how important it is to be doing work that really talks to your heart and resonates with you.
So how many hours a week do you recommend that a franchisee in any area or any work line, any industry, how many hours should they be putting into networking? Maybe they don't know how to network.
Well, you're absolutely right, John. They don't know how to network. It is a learned skill. Just like, I've always believed leaders are not born, they're made. It is a learned skill. It's something you should always be studying and practicing. And networking is something you should be studying and practicing. Everything from when you walk in a room and there's 3 people standing, how are they standing? And do they have an open group or a closed group? And what kind of questions you can ask to begin with, and how you insert yourself in a group, to what is it that you're looking for? We don't even know how to say to somebody, "You know what, my ideal referral would be somebody who lives in this neighborhood and has big trees in the yard, because that means the roots have probably grown through the lines, and I can help that person." Just being so specific. I can tell you that a number of our members, and I've had 3 in my chapter alone, tell me they stopped marketing because they get enough leads from BNI. Our painter in my chapter said, I don't have to market anymore. All my leads, all my referrals, we don't call them leads, we call them referrals, because we're referral partners, comes from BNI. If people do business with people they know and like, and you're locally owned and operated, and you need people to know, trust, and like you, how do you go about doing that? Is the question I ask. So when you ask how much time do you need to spend, how much time do you need to spend to have people learn about you and your business and know, like, and trust you?
Are most of and I don't know if you track this or not, what percentage of the members worldwide or in the United States are franchise businesses?
About 20% of our members are
lower than I
franchisees,
thought.
and we're getting more and more. I've got 6 franchisors that we've been working with for the last few months, that every new franchise owner that comes into their system, we marry them up to a chapter, because when you're new in the market or new in that networking is critical. And I've had a number of franchisors say, "I've heard you talking about this. Can you help us?" And I'm like, "Yes, we can." We have a great partner program where we can work through that. We can absolutely help you and your new ones. And then as the new ones are coming in, the ones that have been in for a while is like, "What's this BNI thing?" And then we have great data that we can give them to show them where their ideal referrals dollar-wise are coming from, and how the members that are part of their franchise owners, how that's working for them. Because we can look micro and macro from the data.
So isn't it amazing how the world is really a small place when it comes down to a company like BNI? You're in 76 countries. They all operate the same. People everywhere throughout the world want to work with people they like, and they want to network or learn how to network. Isn't that just amazing that goes on 24/7? When you're sleeping, there are BNI meetings going on somewhere.
Yes. And when you're sleeping or doing something else, a member is selling your services and products. That's what we say. It's like having an extra sales force. You and I before we started this, we were talking about all the people we knew, and we know a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
And that is all about your network. Your network is, I think I heard someone say, your network determines your net worth. And, for me, my network is everything about who I've become and who I will become.
Do you, I know you're part of a BNI chapter. Is it just one chapter? And how much do you participate?
I went to the chapter and said, I'd like to join, but I know I'm not your typical member. And I do travel quite a bit for work. And we have a very serious requirement that you have to make every meeting. You can't miss more than 2 meetings in a 6-month period, but you can have substitutes. I said, I'll follow the rules. I'll have substitutes, but please know, but if you think I'm going to be disruptive to the group, because I'm the CEO,
Right.
you're welcome to tell me so. And they said, no, we'd love to have you. So every Tuesday at 7:30 at the Light of Christ Unity Church, my group meets, and we take 15 minutes to. It's like seeing old friends. And our global headquarters is here in Charlotte, and I'm new here to Charlotte, and they're like my friends because
Yeah.
they're the people I've met. And tell you this. I know how to do a lot of things because I was a Marine and I'm a plumber, but I don't know how to do anything on my car. And I got here and the tire in all the tires in my car showed low because it got instantly cold.
Mhm.
And in the chapter, I casually mentioned, I'm like, my tires are low and I don't know where to go. I had 6 messages within 10 minutes saying, go to this person, he'll take care of you, ask him for this.
Right.
And the person that one of them sent me to, he's like, I'll just take care of your tires. Don't worry about it. It was lovely.
Yeah, wonderful. So it's not as though you don't have enough to do as the CEO of BNI. You're the chair of the board of directors of the International Franchise Association. And franchising has lots of, not so much problems, but challenges, issues. And you've got to travel. And I saw you in London. I saw you someplace else.
I've been in London, Germany, Morocco,
Yes.
Portugal, Vietnam, India, Hong Kong, Malaysia. And here's what's great. When the board was considering me for this role, I told them, I said, I've made a commitment to IFA to be the chair, and I have to honor that commitment. And they said, we think it's a great idea because what BNI does and what franchising does, what IFA does, is really a lot of the same. It's networking. I almost always, like I was in London for the franchise show, which is a great show. And I attended 2 chapter meetings, and I met with a bunch of our franchise owners and had a great luncheon with one of our old master licensees. And so I've been able, amazingly, they have gone hand in hand and they really work very well together. And, Matt Haller and his group, Matt Haller's the CEO of IFA. He's doing an amazing job.
Yes.
They really, I really think as the chair, my focus is to make sure that I keep the message clear. And it's about good franchising. It's about getting our message out. We're putting together a really good campaign about what is franchising. Sometimes we talk about what franchising is not, and we don't spend enough time talking about what we are.
Yeah.
And then working through a pretty important bill that will likely be called the American Franchise Act, which will be to ask our legislators to pull franchising out of joint employer, because we're not in a joint employer, and it really hinders franchising. So my responsibility is to just stay clear and keep the message clear. And we've had a plan for a long time, and each chair we're involved in those plans early on, and it's just to make sure that it keeps moving in that direction.
What are the other big challenge or two that you're facing, or that IFA faces, franchising faces as I don't like to call it an industry, but as a community, because it's lots of industries within this community that we call franchising. What are some of the other big issues, challenges that are being faced?
I do think helping our lawmakers understand what franchising is, and helping the American public and the public who uses franchising almost every day understand that we are locally owned and operated, that we're community champions, that the money stays in the community, that, when I was a franchisee, I supported our local high school football program. I gave donations almost on a daily basis to all the different charity organizations because it was a big part of what I was doing in my community. Helping people understand that we really are locally owned and operated. We really are the community champions, that the money stays. A lot of people don't understand that.
Right.
And helping the lawmakers understand that. I tell people, franchising transcends politics. We are big business and we're little business. We are global and we are local. We are the heartbeat of what drives what happens in the United States, what happens in Canada. I could go on country by country.
So you mentioned that you're working with your sixth private equity firm.
I am.
And how much you enjoy private equity. What's the role of, back in Don Dwyer's day, we didn't have private equity. It was Riverside that came along and acquired the Dwyer Group and took it from a public to a privately traded company. What's private equity doing in franchising? What's that all about?
Well, what I like about private equity is they don't want to come run the company. What they want to do is they want to see where's the opportunity and put resources and attention towards where the best opportunities are to grow that company. And I share this with franchisees. I share this with the team regularly, because if they grow the company, they win. And so they look for where the best opportunities are, and they're quite disciplined. And most of the private equity companies have experts on their team. So like Riverside, they helped us in a number of places in our branding when we went to Neighborly. And Harvest helped us really professionalize some things we were doing in scorecards and understanding how we were leading the company. And I'm with Pamlico right now, and they're a great thought partner, and they ask great questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the business day in and day out. I live, eat, and breathe it. They come to a board meeting, and I talk to them regularly. And because they don't live, eat, and breathe it, they can step back and ask a question that I might not have thought to ask.
Yeah. And
it makes me better and stronger as a leader, and it makes our company better and stronger. And I've had very good experiences, and like anything else, you've had some people say I didn't have a good franchising experience, or I did have a good. And I've heard the same from private equity. My experiences have been very good. You have to be willing and open to change. You have to be willing and open to taking a good hard look at your business and yourself, and say, you know what, maybe I don't have all the answers. And I like that. I like having a thought partner. I like having a sparring partner, frankly, that will make me better and stronger.
Yeah. So is there a downside to private equity?
That's a good question. I've heard people say that they've experienced some downsides. I believe that you have to be able to help them see the heart and soul of what your company is, and mesh the growth with the heart and soul of what the company is. And so when I've heard of a downside, it would be because that didn't happen. That connection or communication didn't happen. I want my private equity company to be a thought partner, to be a sparring partner, but I don't want them to run my company. I've heard of a few. I haven't experienced this, where they get so much into your business, you're not the one running it. But I've not experienced that. And I think as a strong leader, our job is to show them what we are doing, and be open to the questions and the thoughts that might make us better.
So one of the issues we had at the Dwyer Group as a publicly traded company was that there were times when franchisees needed something that we needed to provide, but it was going to cost a lot of money, and it was going to diminish our standing on Wall Street. And so while we did our best not to let the price of the stock get in the way of serving our franchisees, which is of ultimate importance in franchising, that's one of the complaints that people have about private equity.
I actually think the opposite.
Okay.
So when you started saying that, I thought, gosh, I wish I had thought to say that to your question.
Yeah.
What I really appreciate about private equity is, let's say there's something I want to invest in, and it's a big investment. It's bigger than the normal within my P&L. I can go put a business case together and present it to the private equity company and say, here's why I want to do it. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's what it's going to do for us. And here's what it's going to look like 3 years or 5 years down the road. And more times than not, they've said, let's go for it. Now, on the times that they've said, let's not, it's usually because I haven't made a good business case out of it.
Yeah.
And I do think that we should look at that and ask ourselves, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is this really, are we doing this because of ego? Are we doing this because it's going to grow the business and be good for our franchisees?
Yeah.
And so, and that is, to me, one of the reasons why I like being in PE, because on a publicly traded company, quarter by quarter by quarter, you're wondering on private equity, they're looking for the long, 5 years down the road and how they can grow that business.
Absolutely. So, Mary, this has been great. You're one of the most admired women in franchising and in business. My students love you when you come to the Titus Center.
Thank you.
I hope you'll
I
come
love
back.
talking to them.
I will hope you'll mentor some of them in the future, and some of them will end up becoming BNI franchisees or working within BNI. That would be
Certainly
a
hope
great
so.
tribute to us. We love what we do at Titus Center, and we love people like you. You're a diamond, Mary. You're brilliant and sparkly. So
I still need a lot of diamonds around me. I still have some cutting
absolutely.
to be done.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for taking this time.
Thank
with
you,
me.
sir.
It was really
Thank you so
good.
much, John.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.